In the beginning, before the concept of time had even begun to breathe, there was only Chukwu, the infinite essence, the Son of Suns, and the source of all that is and shall ever be. He sat upon the throne of the heavens, a being so vast that entire galaxies were but dust motes, dancing in the radiant golden light of his eternal gaze. Chukwu did not exist within the universe as a tenant. Rather, the entire universe existed as a small, shimmering thought held within the infinite depths of his divine mind. From his silence, he brought forth the four pillars of the world, Ik, Ori, Off, and Enquo, assigning each a day to hold the fabric of reality together in a perfect, repeating cycle. Below the celestial heights, the earth was formed a vibrant tapestry of emerald forests, silver winding rivers, and mountains that reached up like praying hands toward the stars. To watch over this new realm, Chukwu created the Elusi, the powerful spirits who acted as his hands, his eyes, and his messengers in the physical world of men. Among these spirits was Inyanwu, the radiant lady of the sun, and Amadioha, the master of the lightning's crackling roar, who enforced the laws of justice across the plains. Yet despite the presence of these mighty beings, Chukwu remained remarkably distant, hidden behind a veil of clouds that no mortal, and very few spirits, could ever hope to pierce. The people of the earth looked up at the vast blue sky and felt the warmth of the sun on their skin, knowing it was a gift, yet feeling the weight of the Creator's silence. They built magnificent shrines and offered the finest sacrifices, but they often wondered why the Father of all lived so far away from the children he had so lovingly shaped. In a small village nestled between the roots of ancient towering Iroko trees lived a young man named Obi, whose heart was filled with an insatiable, burning curiosity, while others were content with the laws of the Elusi and the rituals of the harvest. Obi spent his nights staring at the moon, dreaming of meeting the one who made the stars. Why does Chukwu hide in the high places? Is a father not supposed to guide his children with his own voice? Obi asked the village elders, his voice echoing a forbidden doubt. The elders would shake their heads in solemn warning, reminding him that the Great Spirit was too holy for mortal eyes to behold without being consumed by divine fire. But Obi believed that a father should not be a stranger, and he vowed that he would find a way to reach the heights of the sky, even if it cost him his very soul. He began to gather the strongest vines from the deepest parts of the forest, weaving them into a rope that he hoped would reach the very floor of the celestial kingdom. Day after day, he climbed the tallest, most jagged mountains, throwing his rope upward into the mist, only to have it fall back to the earth in a tangled, mocking heap. The Elusi watched from their unseen realms, some amused by the boy's persistence, and others deeply concerned by his audacity to challenge the boundaries of mortality. Amadioha, the hot-tempered spirit of thunder, wanted to strike the rope with a bolt of fire to teach the boy a lesson in humility, but Inyanwu, the sun, stayed his hand. "Let us see how far a human heart fueled by pure love can go," she whispered, her golden light bathing the world in a soft, encouraging glow that warmed Obi's tired limbs. Far above, in the realm where sound becomes light and thought becomes reality, Chukwu felt a tiny vibration, a pulse of intent coming from the small world below. It was rare for a mortal to seek the source directly. Most were content to ask the Elusi for rain, for health, or for a bountiful harvest to fill their barns. Chukwu shifted his cosmic gaze, and the entire galaxy trembled. Planets slowing in their orbits at the simple movement of the divine and infinite mind. He saw Obi, tired, bruised, and bleeding, sitting on a jagged peak, refusing to give up on his impossible quest to bridge the gap between the earth and the heavens. "What is it you truly seek, little spark of my own spirit?" a voice whispered. Not into Obi's ears, but directly into the silent center of his trembling soul. Obi fell to his knees, the sheer weight of the presence making the very air feel like liquid gold, pressing down with the love of 1,000 mothers. "I seek to know you," Obi replied, his voice trembling like a leaf in a great storm. "I seek to know why you are so far from those who love you." The silence that followed was not empty. It was heavy with the weight of eternity, the wisdom of the ages, and the echoes of every prayer ever whispered. Suddenly, the clouds above the mountain began to swirl in a celestial dance, forming a giant luminous eye that looked down with a kindness that surpassed all understanding. In that moment, Obi did not see a man or a giant, saw the birth of stars, the death of suns, and the flow of every river that had ever existed in the mind of God. He felt the collective pain of every creature and the ecstatic joy of every birth, all held securely within the palm of a single, invisible, and all-encompassing hand. I am not distant because I do not care, nor am I hidden because I am cold. The voice resonated, sounding like the perfect harmony of 1,000 silver flutes. I am the distance itself, am the space between your heartbeats, the rhythm of your pulse, and the very breath that leaves your lungs when you speak my name. Obi realized then that he had been looking for a king in a distant marble palace, when he should have been looking for the life that vibrated within every green leaf. Chukwu showed him that if he were to walk among men in his full, unshielded glory, the earth would melt like wax before a flame, and the oceans would turn to vapor. His distance was not an absence, but a shield and necessary grace that allowed the physical world to grow, to struggle, to fail, and to find its own unique path. To be a creator is to give the gift of independence. For love that is forced is not love at all, Chukwu explained, as the stars seemed to lean closer to hear. If I solved every problem and answered every prayer with a thunderbolt of intervention, you would never learn to be the masters of your own divine destiny, Obi wept. Not out of sadness or fear, but out of a profound sense of cosmic relief that the universe was not an accident, but a carefully choreographed dance. He understood that every law of nature, every season of the rain, and every cycle of the moon was a letter in a long, ongoing poem written by the hand of Chukwu. The great creator then reached down through the layers of reality, and for a fleeting second, the tip of a celestial finger touched the crown of Obi's head. A surge of forbidden knowledge flooded Obi's mind. He saw the history of the world from its first explosive spark to its final quiet ember in the dark. He saw the ancestors walking as shadows in the forest, guarding the traditions and the wisdom that kept the balance of the community and the spirit. He saw the beauty of the balance between the scorching light of Anyanwu and the cool darkness of the night, both serving a singular, divine purpose. When the vision finally faded, Obi found himself back on the mountain. The rope he had woven now, looking like a simple, fragile toy compared to the reality he had seen. The sky was clear, the stars were bright, and the Elusi were silent, respecting the sacred communion that had just taken place between the Creator and the created. Obi returned to his village after many days, but he was no longer the restless, angry youth who had left in a fit of curiosity weeks before. His eyes now held the deep, swirling reflection of the cosmos, and his voice carried a stillness that commanded the attention of even the oldest, wisest elders. He told them that Chukwu was not a distant, demanding king who required fear, but a silent, patient gardener who cherished every bloom in his garden. "We do not need to build ladders of vine to the sky," Obi told a gathered crowd under the silver light of the moon. "We are already there. We only need to open our eyes to the miracle of the present moment, to the breath in our chests, to see the true face of the Creator." From that day on, the village changed the way they approached their work, their families, and the very ground they walked upon. They realized that every act of genuine kindness was a prayer, and every seed planted with care was a sacred conversation with the divine. The Elusi, too, felt a change in the atmosphere of the earth as the people began to live with a new sense of divine purpose and quiet dignity. And Yanwu shone a little brighter each morning, pleased that the humans finally understood her role as a mirror of Chukwu's eternal warmth. Kamadioha moderated the fury of his storms, using his lightning to clear the stagnant air rather than to strike terror into the hearts of the innocent and the weak. Yet, as the long centuries passed and generations turned to dust, the memory of Obi's encounter began to fade into the mist of legend and simplified myth. New voices arose in the world, voices of stone and cold logic, questioning the old ways and demanding physical proof of a creator who remained invisible. The world became louder and more chaotic, filled with the clatter of iron tools and the hungry shouts of men seeking power over the land and each other. They forgot that the earth was a borrowed garden, not a possession, and that the Elusi were the guardians of a very delicate, very fragile equilibrium. Greed began to poison the one-spear rivers, and hatred began to burn through the ancient forests that had stood since the very dawn of time. Deep in the celestial silence, far beyond the reach of human telescopes, Chukwu watched the darkness spread across the tapestry he had woven. He did not feel the burning anger of a man. He felt a cosmic sorrow, a heavy ripple in the very fabric of existence that echoed through the stars. The Alusi cried out for permission to descend in their full power, to sweep away the corruption of man with a cleansing flood or a devouring fire. But Chukwu remained still, for he knew that true growth and redemption can only come from within the heart of the creation itself, never from outside. "Wait," he whispered to the spirits of the air and the fire, "for there is always a spark, however small, that remembers the true light." In a modern city of gray stone and cold iron, far from the ancient Iroko trees of the past, a young girl named Ada found a forgotten, dusty scroll. It spoke in a rhythmic, ancient tongue of a boy who climbed a mountain and a creator who spoke in the silent language of the human soul. Ada felt a strange, inexplicable warmth in her chest, a sudden feeling that she was not alone in the crowded, cold, and lonely streets of the city. She looked at a small, stubborn weed growing through a crack in the hard pavement and saw the same strength that moved the stars across the sky. She began to teach the other children about the balance, about respect for the unseen, and about the Great Spirit who breathes in all living things. Slowly, the ancient message began to spread once more. Not as a religion of strict rules, but as a quiet, revolutionary realization of connection. People began to realize that the distance of Chukwu was actually his unique way of being everywhere, in everyone, at every single moment. If he were a body in one place, he could not be in another. But by being the essence, he was in the stone, the bird, the water, and the human heart. This was the glimpse that the ancestors had always whispered about the moment when the veil of the ego drops and the infinite is finally revealed. The legend of Chukwu reminds us that our search for the divine is often just a long, winding search for our own deepest, truest selves. We look to the distant horizons for a sign of God, forgetting that the very eye that is looking is a part of the God it seeks to find. The distant creator is only distant if we choose to live on the thin surface of our lives, distracted by the temporary noise of the world. Every culture, every tribe, and every soul has its own name for this source, be it Chukwu, the Great Spirit, or the universal mind of the cosmos. It is the invisible thread that binds the clever trickster spirits of the plains to the stoic, silent gods of the highest snow-capped mountains. It is the ancient wisdom that tells us we are all leaves on the same great tree, drinking from the same hidden subterranean well of life. Obi's rope was never truly meant to reach the physical sky. It was a tool meant to show him that he was already standing on the holiest of ground. The Alusi continued to dance in the subtle shadows of our reality, guiding those who are quiet enough to listen to the whispers of the morning wind. Inionwu still brings the dawn without fail, reminding us that every single day is a new chance to witness the silent glory of the infinite. And in the quietest moments of the deep night, if you still your mind and listen closely, you can hear the heartbeat of the entire universe. It is a slow, steady, and comforting rhythm that says, "You are never alone. You are seen, you are known, and you are deeply loved." Chukwu does not need our grand monuments of stone or our bloody rituals of sacrifice. He desires only the temple of a conscious, loving heart. To catch a glimpse of the Creator is to realize that there is no us and there is no them. There is only the one manifesting as the many. As the stars continue their silent, ancient journey across the velvet sky, they tell a story of a father who never truly left his children. They speak of a peace that surpasses all the understanding of the human mind, and a joy that is the natural, original state of the spirit. May we, like the brave Obi, have the courage to ask the most difficult questions and the patience to wait for the silent, soul-stirring answers. May we, like the young Ada, find the sacred in the ordinary and the eternal truth in the fleeting moments of our daily lives. The journey to find the great Creator is not a distance measured in miles or light years, but a distance measured in the depth of our awareness. Close your eyes for just a moment, and you will find that the sky is not something above you, but something that lives and breathes within you. The very breath you take right now is the same breath that moved the first waters of the world into their glorious being. Trust in the wisdom of the distant gaze, for it sees the end from the beginning and finds a unique beauty in every stumbling step we take. In the final unfolding, we all return to the source, like individual raindrops falling back into the vast, shimmering, and eternal ocean of Chukwu. The story of the distant creator is, in its final truth, the story of how incredibly close he has always been to the heart of man. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe to Channel Storycraft Studio for more Legends of the Spirit.